and welcome to another Zelda podcast. I'm your host today, David Geisler, and I'm here with cast member Dan McCoy. Dan, how are you?
Hey, everyone. It's good to be back. It feels like home.
Indeed. Well, it is home for you this year.
No, literally, I'm in my home right now. This is pretty cool.
That's true. This is our third episode that we've recorded here at your place, and it's been a ton of fun. I've been looking forward to this episode. I have a little bit of listener feedback, but I want to tell everybody what we're doing.
Please and thank you.
When we were thinking about the kind of episodes to do with you, you definitely had told me you wanted to do a deep dive one, and you were kind of curious about Yiga. That was a ton of fun.
Yep.
I loved that. The crossover, the season open. So actually, yeah, our listeners kind of know this already, but we had a kind of a co-show crossover event.
The co-show crosso. It's the co-show crosso. That's what we're going to call it. From now on, that's it. It's cemented in.
Well, I was a guest on Fan Fiction for your first episode back into your most current season.
Yep.
And then we had you and Dan, as our listeners probably already heard. We had you and Matt,
Yes.
on our season opener for this season.
We're all just hanging out now, just recording what we talk about.
Ironically, none of us are in the same cities in the country,
Nope,
but we're all
not at
just
all.
hanging out recording. There's a lot of bouncing around the nation right now, but it's all good. Dan's getting comfortable.
I am. I got a wheelie chair, so I'm trying to be as quiet
the
as
squeaker.
possible. It's not a super squeaker.
I think we'll be okay.
With that's the other chair.
That's that one.
But we'll be okay.
What are we doing for this episode?
So actually, the very first time I was ever on another Zelda podcast.
Yep, episode 1, season 3.
I think we've talked about we worked together, and I knew you had mentioned that you did this podcast, and
Oh, Dan.
yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but season 3, episode 1 was like your second time on the show. You actually were like a mega, just a guest back in season 2.
Yeah,
which is what you're talking about right now.
yeah, this is like a bookend thing.
I accidentally thought the commercials episode was your first.
No, this is.
Well, also remind me what we did back then, I guess, not just our listening audience.
It's good to felt remembered. I first want to just point that out. But the first time I was on the show, I don't know a lot about Zelda. I like video games, but Zelda's not my wheelhouse. It's not my forte. And I knew David knew just untold treasures of the Zelda and lore and everything. And so I remember talking to him at work, and I was like, I wonder if I just asked him enough questions, he'll start thinking that I could be on the show.
I mean, I thought you were a big Zelda fan.
Yeah, and so eventually, I was asking him so many questions. He's like, "Hey, well, stop asking me so many questions." And
We're at work.
Yeah, and B, get back to work, and then C, why don't you write these down? And this can be an episode. This can be 10 questions from somebody who doesn't know a lot about Zelda, who is trying to get into the franchise.
I think we titled it much like this episode, 10 questions from a new Zelda fan.
From a new Zelda fan.
Because you did have a certain amount of excitement for Breath of the Wild when we spoke about it. I don't think that was fake.
I don't think I'd played it. I'd only played Ocarina of Time. That's all I had.
Wait, when we first got started, you hadn't played Breath of the Wild?
I don't believe so.
I think I remember you. Maybe I misremember. I think you had kind of poked around on it a little bit or something. I think you owned it, but maybe I'm rewriting history here. Now.
Maybe. No, I don't think so. Because I remember the gift you got me for Christmas was the DLC that came out after.
Yes,
and that was I had played right into it. I was finishing up, and then you had got me the DLC.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I had played it and then sat it down for a year or anything like that. So I think it was fairly because when it first came out,
you really were a new Zelda fan.
Well, because when the game first came out, it didn't. I don't want to say the word appeal to me, but it's not my franchise. So I was just like, well, okay, that new Zelda game came out.
Yeah, you're like, this isn't Ghostbusters open world.
First of all, when that happens, you will never see me again.
I wonder, there's that online one right now that everybody can play. That's kind of like
but it's a first person shooter, or maybe third.
I mean,
person.
it's almost Left 4 Dead as Ghostbusters.
And that's just it. I think the Ghostbusters video game, the one with Dan McCoy, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's story driven, but you still get the great mechanics of air fishing is essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
So anything else, I'm already going to be judgy because I've already had the perfect Ghostbuster game.
Yeah.
And I think I've said this before. I also don't like playing video games where other people rely on me or I rely on other people.
Interesting.
And so I know it's to talk about Ghostbusters more, I know it's a team game where it's you and your friends can go and bust ghosts online. I'm like, nope. I need a story. Yeah. I need to be alone. I need to be able to defeat the boss by myself and be self-reliant.
I probably asked you this 3 or 4 years ago, but I'm going to ask you again. When you played Ocarina of Time, way back in the day, was it okay, I have played a Zelda game, good enough? Was that kind of the emotion that you came out? So you weren't looking for Wind Waker or Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword?
No. When I played it, I remember going oh, that was fun. I don't see what all the hoopla's about.
Dan, how dare you?
Okay. But I remember playing going oh, cool. And then Majora's Mask was the next one that came out.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, do you want to play that? And I was like, nah, I think I got
good.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It just, and like now, any new Zelda that comes out, like I'm instantly attracted to it, but now I know more. Now I'm invested. Now it's something more precious to me than just that game that I played that one time.
To be honest, us calling this 10 more questions from a new Zelda fan, I only put the word new in there so that it's kind of like a sequel to that other episode. But
not as new.
You're not as new
not
at this
as
point.
new.
I
no.
mean, you actually do know various amounts of lore at this point.
I still have questions.
Yeah.
Because like, again, I haven't done a deep dive into the whole thing. So there are.
I love it.
And I also did a little bit of deep dive, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions just to make sure
I can't wait.
I
can't wait.
Up on the whole thing.
To that point, actually, then we're going to get into our listener feedback. To that point, when Kate and I first started Another Zelda podcast back in 2017, I had played almost all the Zelda games. There was like maybe 4 out of the 23 or whatever it is, depending on how you count the remakes. I'd almost played, like, you know what I mean? Like some of them, it's like it almost is a new game. With you know what I mean? But anyway, I almost lost my thought here. But like, I would say that Zelda was one of my favorite video game franchises. Okay. But I in no way could say that I was a Zelda mega fan.
Oh,
and so now over the course of these past 5 years, I have a Zelda wallet. I'm wearing a Zelda sweatshirt. I have Zelda socks. Like, it's like I get excited. I only pick Link in Mario Kart. I get excited by Zelda stuff. I'm in. You know what I mean? And the show just kind of does that to you.
But you know what's also so funny to speak off that though? Like, so you can clearly see I'm a huge Ghostbuster nerd. Yeah. Like, and I think I have way more knowledge than the average person. But there are still people out there that will run laps around me. Do you know what I mean? Like the people that like can recite, like I can recite most of the movie. Yeah. But like this, like people know there are some people that just, that's what it's all about, and like, I'm impressed. Like, I even take like hardest Ghostbuster quiz that you can come up with, and like, oh, there's some I just still don't know,
One of the coolest things about AZP is that even from the beginning, we never pretended we were experts or anything like that. Sure. It was like, but what happens is you end up, it's like not a show about like, hey, we have the answers. You end up becoming like, there's like a community relationship.
It's a community of like the whole thing.
The fans or the listeners of our show even like help us realize things back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's really cool. And so anyways, I like all that. Let's do our listener feedback. The first one here I have, a W. Yarborough over on YouTube in our favorite side quests in Breath of the Wild episode, season 1, episode 18. This is an oldie.
Oh, wow.
This is one that only Kate and I did way back then. Kate, I'm with you, though the entry was 10 days ago. I love that people go back and listen to our older seasons. Kate, I'm with you on the Terrytown side quest. The thing I loved about it was the symbolism it added to the end game cutscene. If you found all of Link's memories at the wedding, Bolson tells Link that the endless falling. Oh my goodness, this screen grab doesn't have the rest of the comment. The red more wasn't clicked.
Oh, David.
Oh, W. Yarborough.
You hate to see it happen.
Maybe I'll have to find this one and return to it on another episode. And
to be continued on that one.
With that said, Dan, did you play any of the Terrytown side quests?
Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah. I actually did not like Terrytown the first time I played it.
Really?
I was like, why am I running all over the place just to find people with Sun in their name and blah, 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 blah. And after I spoke about it on the show with Kate, I kind of was open, my heart opened up for it quite a bit.
Remind me, because it's been years since I played it, like, you do build up the town, right? But you don't get to like dark cloud it. You don't get to like really maneuver the town. You don't go in like God mode where you're like lifting up the buildings and saying.
And you don't even get to pick where you find a person and then that person builds the armory. You find a person, that person builds the. So it is. So that part for me was disappointing. But then when I realized, well, wait, that's not the game Breath of the Wild is.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
I don't know, but like with the Sheikah 8 and like being able, like having the magnesis and like being able to like lift these insanely large things, I don't think it would be too much of a stretch for you to cultivate and rearrange the town however you would want.
We are recording this episode before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, but I think by the time this is posting, Tears of the Kingdom will be out.
Okay.
But perhaps you saw in the trailer a few weeks ago, and perhaps you didn't, that
I'm going to blow your mind and tell you I'm not watching the trailers.
For Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I know. So I have a rule. If I'm gonna play it, no trailers.
Okay, cool.
Same with movies. If I'm gonna see the movie, no trailers.
My rule is officially released trailers for games I'm okay with, but I don't go into like the theories or for games. I don't go into the theories or the speculations.
Yeah.
Wow, this is interesting. When Tears comes out, you're going to be on equal ground with everyone else on the AZP cast.
I have no idea, and I don't. I'm gonna get it.
Sure.
Like I'm gonna enjoy it, but I don't want anything. Like too many times I've seen a move get used, and you're like, oh, okay, well that's in the game. I want that pure surprise.
I will not spoil anything.
Okay.
But your thought about using like a power to craft and or build things, not buildings, will be realized.
Okay. I don't want us to like get too off in the deep end, and all of a sudden like I'm demanding a Sims Hyrule, or anything like that.
Like episode 1.
But like if there's a small little Terrytown thing where you get to create like this whole thing, I'd be down for it.
Yeah. Cool. All right, here we go. Over on YouTube. I think all 3 of these are YouTube today. This is interesting.
Quick. Do we have the entire comment, David?
Yeah, it is. I did check.
Okay, good. Okay, just making sure. So
the way like we do this, sometimes it's Celeste grabbing them, sometimes it's me. This one was probably one that I grabbed. We used to like copy and paste we'd go into Twitter and like copy and paste it, put it in a doc sheet and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And we realized this is so stupid. Let's just, if we're on our phone, screen grab the phone or screen grab the computer, and we throw it into a shared Google Drive folder that's just called AZP Listener Feedback.
Nice.
And as I read them, then I move them to other folders, and that's how we've like the system actually works great unless you don't click read more, like I did. Unless you get a bad screen grab.
Rookie mistake.
This is Fluffy Mustache gave us a review, a comment over on YouTube for a Zelda conversation in Mexico City episode.
Ooh.
That was a fun one. I don't think you've heard that one yet, Dan.
I don't think I have
totally
either.
Fine. It kind of came out kind of quietly, but a little behind the scenes is it was the first. I do a storytelling moment in the middle.
Okay.
So I do like a David narrating with music and stuff in the middle, and it's about going from getting from the great America there in Mexico to get to this restaurant to meet up with a person to have a conversation with them, and I've got sound effects, sounds of the highway. It was my like returning student test run is what it really was.
Got it. So a little artistical flexing.
There's some it is very much. I don't like for AZP to go off format. In fact, I try to keep very strict about it. But this one particular episode, because it was such a unique episode, I met up with a fan in Mexico, and then we talked about.
That's amazing.
It was so cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was all because I Instagrammed something and he reached out, and I was like, we can't miss this opportunity. Let's get together.
Jump on it.
And so because it was so weird, I felt okay doing the storytelling. Anyways, Fluffy Mustache here says, great episode. Can't wait for more. I have been listening since I was 14. 16 now. Well, all right.
Cool.
I believe the very first episode I listened to was the first quiz episode, which you were on, Dan.
Haha, I did great.
You ever did. I've been wondering, is the Majora's Mask episode finally happening next season? Oh, I can speak to that. It is one of my favorite Zelda games, and I would love to hear some detailed thoughts on a side note. When Tears of the Kingdom comes out, which of course, again, it probably is already out by the time this thing posts, I would also really enjoy a first impressions episode. Thanks as always, and keep up the good work.
Hey.
Yeah, we are definitely going to do a first impressions episode of Tears of the Kingdom. Right now, I'll be honest, the plan is to put that on as one of our bonus episodes on our middle tier Patreon thing right now, because our rule is that our normal AZP episodes are usually kind of timeless. They're evergreen, so to speak. We don't really do news that much. We don't have episodes purely based on news, very rarely. But we do allow our Patreon behind the scenes episodes to be very like in the moment. Like, oh, what did you think of that trailer? What did you think of the whatever?
Absolutely.
So right now that is the plan, is to do it over there. I'm not trying to get people to have to go to Patreon. There might be other ways. We're going to explore Tears of the Kingdom in a lot of different ways.
I'm sure we're going to talk about it at great length.
Yeah.
So,
and then Majora's Mask, this episode, we aren't planning to do it in season 6 here. However, because the cast has grown so large and the way we treat like how we all get together to do this show these days, well, I'll just kind of be blunt about it. I used to only do review episodes with Kate.
Sure.
And I would wait to do them with her because like it was like back in the early days, that was like a special thing for us to do together. But now that the team is so big and the group is so big and the support and everyone's so loving and caring and there's so much support that I think that there are ways to do. I think review episodes in the future maybe should be like 3 or 4 of the cast members getting together and roundtabling it a little bit. I think that would all be really interesting. You know
I'm
what I mean?
down for it.
So we are planning a couple review episodes this season. Maybe one could be Majora's Mask. Maybe we could do a pivot. I mean, honestly, episode 22 and 23 and 24, we don't have those filled in yet. So you know what, Fluffy Mustache? I'm not going to guarantee there's a Majora's Mask review episode this season, but honestly, I'm gonna talk to the cast.
Whatever Fluffy Mustache wants, Fluffy Mustache gets,
including a Kermit the Frog as a gangster icon as their little avatar here.
Hey, you're gonna sleep with the fishes.
Like that?
Wow, I didn't know I queued you up for that.
Pulled that one right out.
Woo!
Ooh.
Oh
the second
my
you
gosh.
said Kermit the Frog, I was like, I'm gonna blow this kid's mind. I can't wait. Oh.
All right, last but not least, we're going. We got to get into this. We got to get into this episode. We're getting a little chatty, and that's my fault. Matt Kaufman over on Instagram messaged us. I think DM'd us actually.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe it was Instagram, maybe it was Facebook.
As
it doesn't
the
matter.
youths will do.
Perhaps. Matt here says, as the youths will do. They don't use Facebook anymore.
As the youths will do.
Just want to reach out and say thanks for doing these podcasts. New listener, only on season 2, but this podcast has really been helping me through a difficult time in my life. And is really keeping me distracted while deep diving into a second favorite game of mine.
Hey.
Only second to Metroid.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
You should play Mass Effect.
Looking forward to catching up on the podcasts to find out more that I did not know because of this podcast. Because of this podcast, I restarted Breath of the Wild again. Hopefully this time I'll get through the entire game. Keep it up. And then there's a second.
Keep it up, Matt. You keep it up.
Yeah, and then just like a few minutes later, there's a second message here. Also, just thought of this. Matt was really on a roll. He's like, and another thing.
He's got it.
I love it. Also, just thought of this. In season 2, episode 25, I believe it was the Funny Moments episode.
Sure.
One of you guys, it was Kate and I back then, one of you guys talked about a lady writing in Breath of the Wild, in a Breath of the Wild diary about it's been a long time since she's had an arrow knocked. Yeah, the woman who works at one of the stores in Kakariko. She's a little lonely and she's very excited to sell arrows to Link.
Okay.
And she technically has
I actually recall this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a diary behind her. And if you read it, she's like basically insinuating like, it's been a long time since I've had a date or had a man in my life or something like that, right? And then later in the episode, you mentioned the diary of an archer who was talking about a divorce. And I don't remember that character, but I believe we talked about it. Do you think these two are the husband and wife who got divorced?
Ooh.
An archer. Oh, that's the connection. She sells arrows.
Yeah.
Maybe they did get a divorce and she's still selling arrows to feel close, or who knows what happened.
I mean, maybe it's amicable.
It could have been.
Maybe they just were like, it's not working out.
Listen, I like to sell them. You like to shoot them.
I'm just saying, you're more of a bow person and I'm an arrow kid, you know?
Matt, you might be onto something there. That's really cool. Neat. Dan?
Yeah, that is neat.
Hit me up.
What am I doing?
You're asking me questions.
Okay, so we're starting.
Yeah, I know. That was kind of vague there.
So I'm going to start out a little simple.
Okay.
I'm not trying. These aren't gotcha questions.
I just realized too, we should let the audience know that I have absolutely no idea what you're going to ask, and I have no computer in front of me or anything. Yeah. So I might get stuff really wrong, well, I guess it's not even really a quiz. It's more just like questions you have.
It's not a quiz, but there are some things that I don't. From what I came up with the question, and I don't think I found an answer.
Got it.
So I'm throwing it over to you.
Let's try it.
Number 1. So why is Link always sleeping?
Yeah. Okay, so I have thought about this, and I know that the designers have, on occasion in interviews, mentioned that they like there's kind of 2 reasons.
Okay.
Story-wise, maybe this is a bit on the nose, but story-wise, most of the time, the Zelda games like for Link to start out literally as being a bit lazy.
Okay.
Because he's supposed to grow into being a hero.
I didn't know if it was supposed. Not to interrupt. I'm so sorry, but I didn't know if it was supposed to be a character thing because he always starts out waking up. Except for I think Link's Adventure where he's shipwrecked. Is that no?
He's definitely asleep in Minish Cap. He's mega lazy in Wind Waker. He's like he doesn't even want to get up in Wind Waker. That's really when they started doing it. So the first time that I can think of him being asleep is I think Ocarina of Time. Okay. In release order.
Okay.
And that was more for him. He was having a nightmare in that opening cutscene. You might remember. He's shivering, and then it cuts to Ganondorf, the castle.
And then he's got
and Zelda's going away. He doesn't know who Zelda is yet, but she's running away. And so that was just nightmare. That was just for them to get a cutscene. But from there on out, I think he does usually wake up. Technically, Majora's Mask, he's on his horse in the beginning. But you're absolutely right. Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess. Minish Cap, almost all the games since
Mhm.
he's sleeping first.
I mean, even Breath of the Wild,
Yep,
like he
yep.
is woken up from 100 years or 1,000
time.
years of sleep. You know, I
Big
just
time.
I didn't know if there was like a reason or if it's just like I think it's a funny way to just
It started to
Start
become
his
a
character,
thing. It started
yeah.
to become a thing. Ironically, in the adventure of Link, Zelda's asleep the whole time, and Link is trying to wake her up or whatever. But then the second point to that is, so they like when Link is a bit lazy and then he becomes a hero. But secondly, it's not a game mechanic, but the game designers have spoken about in interviews, disparate interviews that I can't like really cite right now, but I've like picked this information up from reading a bunch of different ones, that it's kind of an emotional, it's almost like a psychological experience because the point of Link is to absolutely, which is also why Link doesn't talk, to be a conduit for the player.
Yeah.
We've talked about this
so
many
we can
times
see
on the show.
ourselves 100% in this character.
And so if Link wakes up in the beginning, he is starting at 0
Yeah.
as a character. So we are already imprinting ourselves onto
Got
him as he wakes up.
So we're okay.
So when the bird sticks its head in Skyward Sword, or when Zelda runs in and says, "Wake up, you lazy kid,"
yeah.
we are meeting these people just as he is almost.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's my first.
And
question.
I love how Breath of the Wild does, in a slightly not mature way, but in a more nuanced way, also still reference.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming out of the liquid. That is the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
We just hear Link. He comes out of liquid, so we are he. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I think it's goo. I don't think it's liquid. It's goo.
Goo?
Just to give you heads up.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2. This is a deep dive that I did, so I'm proud of myself. Hey, why don't you tell me a little bit about Zelda's brother?
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I appreciate this because I don't think I know anything about what you're talking about. And
Oh,
let me
yeah?
see if I can kind of
The
source
Prince of
this.
Hyrule.
Let me see if I can.
Got him, everyone. Got him.
I love this. This
Question
is awesome.
2.
No, this is great. Okay, so let's see. Which game could there be a prince? Is it okay? Just give me one hint. Is it a game or is it like external?
It's a Zelda game.
Zelda game. Okay, so it's not like the cartoon show
No,
or
no,
comic
this
book or
is-
something. Because you like in the manga, you see Link's mom and stuff like that. But
Mhm. Oh,
where Zelda?
I want to put like a little like Jeopardy thing in here.
Is it one of the handhelds? Maybe.
So, I mean, from what I've seen, and shout outs to Matt, who everyone
Matt from
knows.
Fan Fiction.
Matt was the one who dropped. He was like, hey,
I
hey,
love
Dan,
this.
ask David about Zelda's brother.
I mean, the truth is, I could try to finagle something out, but I'm blanking. I have no
think
idea where
from what he
there's
said, and I don't want to like make sure, but I think it's from Zelda 2. Like he is referenced.
that could be
I think it's in lore. I don't think you ever actually see him. He's like, "Hi, my name's John.
right.
I'm Zelda's brother." But I just think it's always so funny that we always assume these members don't have like. Well, of course, Zelda has her dad,
Right.
and Link's alone. But like, there is canon of like extended family to some of these people.
Yes, that's cool, and I could see that happening in the earlier Zelda games where it's just like, I mean, there's things that come up in the first Legend of Zelda that are full lore that aren't even in the game. You have to read the instruction manual, but they
Yeah.
are canon lore and stuff like that. That was a great one.
Yeah,
I'll have to Google that and find where it is.
I'm trying to look and see if I can find out because Matt was so proud of himself.
Yeah,
'Cause I asked him-
congratulations,
I was
man.
like, "Hey,
That's
can you get?" He's like, "Oh, I got it. Oh, I got it." So there's that one. Okay.
I love that.
So here we go.
I can say one other thing. Almost all the time, Zelda is a different person
Okay.
in each game. So it makes a lot of sense that she could have different families. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like her dad, sometimes there is a dad king, sometimes there
Well, I was
isn't.
gonna say, but we never really touch base on the mom though. It's always the king.
I know. I
But,
don't
like,
know why that is.
We never really get anything.
I think that there's my headcanon on it, or my take on it, is that you almost never hear about, I think you never hear about the queen.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe it's even explicitly stated in some of the games, but I think what we're supposed to feel is that the mom has passed, which is why Zelda feels even more responsibility
Okay.
and have a relationship with her dad.
Had to raise herself to a certain degree because it's
Yeah.
not like, from what I've seen of the king, they kind of give him like the Sultan from Aladdin.
Aladdin?
You know,
Sometimes,
where
yeah.
like at times he knows what he's doing, but at other times he has absolutely no idea,
Yeah.
and he's in over his head on numerous occasions.
Most definitely, like in the Breath of the Wild area, there's a few in like Minish Cap. He's pretty straightforward. He kind of knows what's going on. and then sometimes the king is kind of re-expressed. So in Skyward Sword, there really isn't a kingdom yet, but there is still there's the head of the school.
Got it.
That is still Zelda's dad, and he's super wise. He's almost so wise he's like almost too chill.
Okay.
Link will come back to him and be like, "This is what happened to through the story of the game." He's like, "This is what happened to Zelda. Oh, she fell and a big monster ate her and stuff
and ate her."
Well,
Oof.
like
Yeah.
not like chomp chomp, but like into the big mouth or whatever, and Zelda's dad in Skyward Sword is almost like, I know you are the chosen one, and I know it'll be okay, and I trust you, and you can do this.
Sometimes he's Sean Connery, sometimes he's Don Knotts. Okay, like he's all over the place with who he represents.
I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to say about that, but
because I still think like
in Twilight Princess, both her parents have passed, and she's only like 16 or something. She's running the whole kingdom.
Because I know in my first podcast for this one, it was like, who are Link's parents?
Yeah.
Because I still am kind of waiting for the games to tackle this, because you said it was in the anime or the
manga for Ocarina of Time does depict both his mom and dad. His dad in the Ocarina universe, his dad's a knight. He gets into this like war that he perishes. The mom runs into the Kokiri forest with Link, and then she kind of.
But for all of the games, like I just think it's fascinating that there has to be a board choice to ignore this and move forward.
The closest we ever got with Link having any family members really is Wind Waker, where he has a little sister and a grandma.
Yeah, but for the longest time, Wind Waker was supposed to be cut and like shipped as a whole different thing, wasn't it? Like,
what do you mean by that?
It felt like so removed, because I think the art being so different, like for Toon Link, I think it's what we've essentially deemed him as.
Absolutely.
That it almost felt like it was a whole new universe. To me, when you shift so heavily, visually,
because the aesthetics, and when you really look at the Zelda series, one thing that is interesting when you look even on, I think that was the broadest stroke made, but there are kind of like 4 or 5 existing art styles right now in the Zelda games, and then the reason I call them art styles is because sometimes they will repeat in other games, and that Toon Link style ended up going from Wind Waker and getting put mostly on the handheld games.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Minish Cap and Phantom Train or Phantom.
Yep, Phantom Train, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. You mix them together. You put them together.
There is a ghost locomotion, and it knows what time it is. Okay, that's all you need to know.
I'm not laughing at you not knowing it. I'm laughing because
you are laughing at me.
No, I'm not.
David,
what I'm laughing about is that you took Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks and turned them into like one game. Phantom Train, Phantom Tracks.
We had also just seen the Final Fantasy Distant Winds show, and I think there was a like one of the songs was called Phantom Train.
Hey, I love it.
So, and I was just, because they show like, I don't know if you've ever been to one, but they show like a music video of this like music they're playing, and it was like a ghosty train thing.
Cool.
Okay, and we'll start with a light, easy one. Hey man, who's hiding all this stuff and rupees in the pots?
Ooh, I love that question.
Like,
I know.
Like, there's no bank system, and so is it just like put it in the pot?
So the only bank that I can think of is the bank that's in Majora's Mask, where there is a bank system.
Is it a giant pot?
It might as well be. It might actually, the building might be styled as a giant pot. I'm not so sure on that, but the one thing, because of Majora's Mask, you Groundhog's Day it. The one way to at least. So when you Groundhog's Day in Majora's Mask, you lose all the little items you've gotten. The main items you keep. So like if you get a gem that unlocks another part of the world, that stays with you.
Major keys, all that fun jazz.
And or so here's an example. You keep your bow and arrow, but you lose your arrows.
Got it.
When you repeat, and you lose all your money.
The unique items you keep.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Wow, you're learning the vernacular and everything.
Yes, because I found out a ladder is a unique item.
In the first Zelda game, it is.
Yeah, I don't cool.
Yeah,
just a ladder.
Yeah, and it's super. I don't know if you've ever seen how it plays, but it's really odd. It's like it lets you walk over water, but because of the way the graphics work, it just suddenly appears, and it's very strange. I'll show you sometime.
Can you climb cliffs with it? Can you just like?
So oddly,
so it's not an up ladder. It's like a temp bridge more than ladder.
It's a bridge. It's 100% a bridge.
It's a bridge.
They call it a ladder.
Okay. Got it.
There might be a ladder in the Invention of Link, but I'm not so sure. I haven't played enough of that one to know. But okay, where are all the pots? So that's totally a game mechanic thing, obviously.
Okay.
Right? Like it's clearly like, oh, we need you cut because like why are rupees in grass?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we need a way to. I think where the thought process came from, stuff being in pots didn't really start until the Super Nintendo Zelda, the third one.
Really?
Yeah, there wasn't really, you didn't really get rupees from pots you didn't break pots in the first Zelda game or the second. It's debatable. There's like power packs and you stab it with your sword in the second one and it gives you more XP or whatever. But basically the pot breaking thing, in fact, in the Super Nintendo Legend of Zelda, even before you get your sword or anything, you can at least pick pots up and throw them.
Yeah.
So my thought, the way I've always kind of processed that, and I don't have any official information on this, is that it's kind of like they were thinking like, oh shoot, okay, well Mario can hit blocks for things. What's the Zelda version?
Okay.
We got to put him in something. And it's like maybe it's conceivable. It's a bit of a stretch, but a pot or a container is where people would be maybe keeping their cash or their loot.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of extracted into something that's a bit more absurd.
You're wrong.
Oh, you know?
No, his name's Tim, and he just drops pots that have rubies in them.
Are you doing a bit right now?
It's a little bit of a bit.
Okay.
It's not my best bit, but it's Tim.
Oh, Tim.
Tim the pot planter.
Yeah, I do think it's hysterical. Fortunately, Zelda's not gone full circle on this, but they're a little bit more aware of like in Ocarina of Time, you can just go into anyone's house and just break their pots and open their treasure chests.
And so like that's I'd like to span this over to like multiple games. That is something that I have an issue with. Because I'm playing the Hogwarts Legacy game right now.
Yeah.
And like you can unlock somebody's house, walk in and just take their chest stuff.
One of my favorite things about Skyrim is how you can't do that.
Yeah,
you have to like get to know them and stuff.
Exactly. Like and like the people will be sitting there watching me do this, and I'm like, I'm robbing you. And like they're just like it happens on a daily basis. And I especially for games nowadays where like your actions kind of dictate how people view you. You know, that's becoming more and more common.
Yep.
The fact that like I can do that and there is zero ramifications, zero. Like, you know, in Skyrim, like the cops can be called on you or something like that.
Yeah, basically.
You accidentally cast a spell in the city.
Yes.
And people are like, go get him. Like,
you.
I love that you have to be more aware of your actions.
Yeah. I really love that too.
So I would like to see. I don't think Zelda's going to adopt that mechanic at all. But
the thing that's funny about these Zelda games is because we do have a unique. I say this all the time, but like we have a unique opportunity with the Zelda franchise, a little bit like Mario, but these games span the previous 30 years of game development.
Sure.
And the language of games and how it's grown and matured and not matured meaning like adult, but like matured as in just being more fully realized. We almost can kind of see where and when which Zelda game in the release order, like when the game, it's almost a litmus test for where the gaming industry was, right?
Yeah.
Because in Ocarina of Time, you're breaking pots, you're getting chests, and the truth is like, let's say you're in Kokiri Forest in the beginning. You go into one of those tree houses and you're like, you probably don't even fully recognize that it's a house first. You're like, oh, there's 4 chests in here.
Yeah.
I'll open them up. And then if you dig around a little bit, you might kind of see a table and a chair.
Oh, like, hey, there's a bed right there.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing that's really interesting is that in the remake of Ocarina of Time, when you go into these buildings, the art team has put up like pictures on the walls, and because that's 20, 30 years later the game was made.
They
you know
can
what I
do
mean?
that now. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's a game mechanic thing, and there's like these days, if I pick up a pot in Breath of the Wild and break it, I actually feel fully guilty.
Yeah.
Like I don't like doing it.
Especially because nowadays it's like the pots aren't just like, you know, made 10 days ago. Like sometimes you're looking and it's like these archaeological, I got it. Second time I got it. Archaeological, like ruins, you know, and then you're just like, okay, this is fine. And then all of a sudden, like you just pick up this thing that's thousands of years old and you shatter it. Like I'm like, wow, oh, that is terrible.
The only thing I can think of, you know, kind of to this point of the game's maturing, when you in Skyward Sword, finally in Skyward Sword, if you walk into someone's house and you like you push A to open up their cabinet, the equivalent of like opening up a treasure chest or something.
Yeah.
The game, if there's a character in the room, they'll say like, "Don't you know it's rude to look at people's stuff?" Or the game itself will close the cabinet and say, "Isn't it a bit rude to look at other people's stuff?" Or something
okay,
like
that's
that.
cute. See,
So it's kind of coming around.
I just need some form of, and I'm not looking for punishment, but like some form of negative action for a hero.
Yeah.
To be like just like raiding people's houses.
I completely agree,
like,
and I also think
I love that.
I know we want to keep moving. We want to get to break here, but like the reason I feel guilty for breaking pots in Breath of the Wild is because there are alternative and realistic ways to make rupees, to make money in Breath of the Wild.
Sure.
Go find your rocks. Go sell things. You know, there's an economy.
Yeah.
You don't have to steal because there it is in Ocarina of Time. it's not stealing because there really isn't an alternative. That is the economy. Or
I mean,
it's like,
you could, well, no. I mean, you could essentially like there's those twigs that you can like, and then you can sell your products that you find, right?
You can't sell things in Ocarina of Time.
You can't sell things.
No
okay,
selling,
well then that
buying.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But and I don't know if it was caught, but like also, especially in Breath of the Wild, like the archaeological aspects of some of these older vases. Like you're in the dungeons and like no one's been here for 200 years, and you're like first clay pot, smash it, like. Whoa!
Or all the pots in Rito Village, they're so beautiful. I feel like I just can't do it.
You know, I always like, even in like God of War or something like that, it's like, oh, what a beautiful handcrafted piece of it. You smashed it against the wall. Okay, well, great, thank you. Took me 45 years to make that. You're a jerk, Kratos. You know, I always think of that kind of stuff.
That's great. I think we should go to break.
Okay, cool.
Let's come back and we'll do these other questions. Where are we? 4 in right now?
Oh, yeah, we're 4 in, but
okay.
I got.
We'll have to go a little faster.
We haven't even touched the hard ones.
All right.
I gave you the babies.
It's the first day of school, and I'm walking around downtown Chicago with hundreds of other students. Everyone's getting back from summer break, and you can tell that they're happy to see each other after a couple months. For me, however, it's been a little longer. Hi, I'm David, and I want to introduce you to Returning Student, a documentary podcast that I've been making about my return to a college that I left 20 years ago. I'm back in the same city, at the same school, the same student ID number. Everything else feels completely different. My fellow classmates are literally half my age. My professors work in my industry. Sometimes I wonder why I've come back at all. But then I get the opportunity to sit down with one of my professors and have a conversation with them, which usually yields a little bit of wisdom. You can find the show on all major podcast providers, as well as our website, returningstudentpodcast.com. A lot has changed over the past 2 decades. Hello there, listeners. David here. You know, the whole team at Another Zelda Podcast appreciates every bit of support our listeners give. And if you'd like to enjoy some extra content, we invite you to consider becoming a patron through our Patreon page. Sword members get a thank you on our website, as well as monthly digital wallpapers for all your devices, and the opportunity to participate in an annual meetup on Discord with the AZP team. White Sword members will get everything the Sword tier gets, and also they'll get access to episodes a week early, as well as bonus episodes that we record specifically for Patreon. A new thing we're doing is monthly Discord meetups where we'll play trivia and hang out with you as well. Lastly, and this is our most popular tier, actually, the Magical Sword level, which includes, of course, everything from the previous 2 levels, but also gives supporters access to behind-the-scenes videos that we produce and behind-the-scenes extended video versions of every episode. Thank you so much for your time. Let's get back to the show. And if you're already on Patreon, we are so grateful that you're helping us keep Another Zelda Podcast vibrant.
And we are back.
Welcome back.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. That was a heavily featured song in the new Ant-Man movie,
The
Quantumania.
Welcome,
No, it was it's the Welcome Back. I think it's the theme song from Welcome Back, Kotter.
Oh, that one.
Welcome
Okay.
back.
I think I was thinking of that Mace song.
I was like, I have no idea what you were thinking, but I was like, we are definitely not on the same page. All right, more questions.
So six more to go, and I think you even have some bonus questions.
Oh,
Well,
there's no counting.
Pick which 6
All
you
right,
want to
so
be official
here's
questions.
a question that I have. Okay, so for Zelda, that predominantly most of what we talk about, Ganondorf, all the forms of him are predominantly always the villain. Yeah. I mean, so even in Twilight Princess, where it was Zant,
a lot of times it's a trade-off.
It's actually Ganon the entire time. Now, there is another person we talk about, and that's Demise.
Yes.
So, and that's only in one game, right?
Demise is only technically realized in Skyward Sword.
But like Demise is not to be trifled with. Demise is like the OG evil, isn't it?
Yes, and one could argue that all of the Ganon and Ganondorfs are Demise, because basically at the end of Skyward Sword, Demise almost kind of goes into like not god status, but almost like how Hylia is a god, and then Hylia imbues into all the different Zeldas. That's how Zeldas become Zeldas.
Okay.
Demise kind of does that for the evil version.
Okay.
So as you're defeating Demise in Skyward Sword, he basically, because that's the first game in the canon, he says, "I swear to you, Hylia," I'm paraphrasing all of this, I will find a way to return. I'll always return. I'll come back. I'll find ways, basically. And I will always battle, not really Link, but I will always battle Hylia, which then becomes Zelda.
Because it's always Zelda versus Ganon.
It really is.
Link,
it really is.
Link is doing the fighting.
Very rarely does Ganondorf want to end Link, but sometimes he does.
Well, I mean, because
a little bit in Wind Waker.
He wants to end Link so that way he can get to Zelda.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't think like Ganondorf wakes up in life and then says, "Oh, that Link," until Link's part of the situation.
Well, it's like the Bowser Mario. Like Bowser always wants Peach. Like that's his end game. His end game is always to get to Peach. Oh, I mean, earlier Bowser. Yeah. They've really changed his whole. So well, and they also kind of brought it back a little bit. For a while, he stopped caring. It
is kind of fun to see him be super mean in the movie trailers again.
Oh yeah, it's so great.
Like that's kind of nice because he was getting kind of like nerfed a little bit. I mean, he's basically becoming Mario's friend in a lot of the games recently.
Well, I mean, especially with Super Smash Brothers and like he becoming a fan favorite.
I mean, even Odyssey, there's a touch of that. But anyway,
well, like they're also like he's now wearing the outfits too, and he's doing the dance musical numbers. Like, it's good to see him back to full on evil. Like it's just
so to get back to Calamity, the general I feel that the general consensus in the community is that every time Ganon enters the scene, be it a Calamity Ganon or any kind of Ganon is almost like the spirit of it's basically Demise finding a way to come back into the world as a spirit, as Ganon.
So Demise is Ganon. They're the same, or like Ganon. I mean, Ganon is powered by Demise.
The way. But
then I thought he was powered by the Power Triforce.
So I think
is he a double whammy?
I'm making this up right now, but I would imagine that Demise somehow figures out how to use the power, is maybe imbued.
But where is Demise?
So here's the thing. I think you're onto something here because the end of Skyward Sword. These are new thoughts for me right now.
Yeah,
I'm putting this together. The Triforce gets split and broken in
Skyward
essentially
Sword.
Yeah, in Skyward Sword. Essentially, Hylia, the goddess Hylia, is imbued into the Wisdom Triforce.
Okay.
I think Demise
100% or just a portion. Like, is she go? I'm going to turn into a triangle.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
It's like we need to, yeah. Kind
and I want that on a T-shirt.
I'm going to turn into a triangle.
I'm going to turn into a triangle.
Okay, maybe that's a new AZP T-shirt.
There it is.
I like that. And then essentially Demise does that,
and
he's
like,
into the power.
You're turning into a triangle?
I think a little bit.
I'm turning into a triangle.
Yeah, there's probably like some people at Zelda Universe and Zelda Dungeon that are like, what is he
just
talking about right now? But that is a kind of a more of a casual fan.
But then who's the third triangle?
So that's the Triangle of Courage.
Sure.
I don't know if anything or anyone is in it. It is more just Link ends up earning it or he's born with it, but because it's courage, he has to like
unlock
it's not another. Yeah, he has to find it within himself. It is different in that way.
But there's no representative of that third piece.
Not that I know of.
But Hylia is representative of wisdom, and
power.
Demise is representative of power. Okay,
yeah. And then courage, and that's the one thing that's also a little different is that when Ganon comes back, it's almost always the same Ganon.
And Ganondorf powered up becomes Ganon.
Swap it. Ganon is the pig beast spirit thing, cloud thing. He's like the kind of the big spooky power.
But Ganondorf's the dude.
Yeah.
So when Ganondorf gets powered up and turns into beast.
You're absolutely right. I was imagining. I was thinking about like levels away from Demise. So Demise can kind of come into the world in a sloppy way as Ganon.
Yeah.
But if he wants to come into the world as a refined way, like really controlling the puppet, it's Ganondorf.
Got it. Okay.
It's kind of my interpretation.
Because the overall question is Demise versus Ganon, who's the bigger evil?
Right.
But now that we've figured it out, it has to be Demise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Demise is the one pulling all the strings in the
background. The puppet master of this whole thing.
Very much so.
Which is so weird that we haven't heard. When's the last time somebody said the word Demise out loud in a game?
I agree. I know what you mean. Well, here's another thing that's going to blow your mind. Skyward Sword, where Demise was kind of retconned into this lore, is the most recent Zelda game since Breath of the Wild.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think it fits to a certain degree, but I also wish that going forward that this is something that we tackle and handle.
I would love to, again, we already talked about how Tears of the Kingdom is probably out when this episode comes out, but I would love to see that the Ganondorf corpse that we've been seeing in the trailer. Yeah, you haven't seen any
I watched the first one with the elephant.
And the kind of the scary zombie guy at the end.
Like the crib, like the handle. Like
imagine that. I think a lot of that literal kind of zombie looking thing is we all pretty much believe is Ganondorf.
Yeah.
Really probably from Twilight Princess, like mummified for one reason or another.
And Twilight Princess is part of this whole world?
Well, that's a whole other conversation because there's a
version. And that's the other thing that like I like it, but I feel like there's always too much interpretation for what is the same universe and what isn't.
So here's like my hot take with Zelda games is that
it fits till it doesn't.
Nintendo for years would almost brag that they never think about the story first. They always just think about a game mechanic, and they build a game and then they see if there's a way to make it work as a story.
Okay.
For the Zelda game specifically. And up until about 10 years ago, about when Skyward Sword came out, they didn't really care about any kind of timeline at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like a big deal when Hyrule Historia came out that there was actually like a decided timeline. And even that thing is pretty much not making sense. You know what I mean? With the 3 different versions and all that.
Got it.
When you have to, when your lore, when your timeline continuity is so messed up that you have to create an alternate timeline where your hero doesn't do the thing your hero's supposed to do and loses to Ganon in Ocarina of Time, and that spawns 3 or 4 other games or 5 other games, you're really stretching.
Sure.
So as much, and one of the things that I love about doing this show is that we do like to go into the game design, the mechanics, and the lore, and we try to make sense of all of this, but you got to really use the Zelda games with a broad stroke because my line of thinking is Nintendo wasn't thinking about it. Nintendo doesn't care. So I'm going to care a little less too, which is why I personally subscribe. I'm not campaigning for this interpretation, but I personally subscribe to the idea, and I've said this before on the show, that Breath of the Wild could be interpreted as the only real one. And all of the others are literal legends inside the Breath of the Wild universe.
Then why do you... Okay, well then you're contradicting yourself when you say that you think that the hand is the Ganondorf Twilight Princess hand coming from out.
According to legend.
But like, so if then the legends can be real.
Oh, you're right.
So
you're right. If Twilight Princess is coming into Tears of the Kingdom and Tears of the Kingdom is in the Breath of the Wild, Dan, congratulations. That was amazing.
Well, I mean, I don't like to brag, but I was waiting for
you are onto something there. We're going to
so then why do you think that's Twilight Princess Ganondorf?
So Andy Barney and I spoke about this too a little bit because he does the YouTube channel Zelda, where he basically tries to like decode lore and stuff like that. And sometimes he's even admitted to me that he's like, sometimes I get in there so deep, it's like, wait, how do we make this all make sense? And we were talking about the idea of Breath of the Wild being the only real one. And Andy pointed out, and I really appreciated that he did this, he pointed out that the definition of a legend doesn't mean fantasy.
Sure.
Most legends are, 80% true or whatever.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And they're based on real things that happened. So I'm realizing now as we talk that we could imagine that all of these events, these larger events that happen in Twilight Princess and any of the games, to some degree happened in the Breath of the Wild universe. But over, 10,000 years, these stories get changed around, and like maybe the Minish weren't actually tiny, or maybe they were not as tiny as the legend now tells, or the Twilight Realm is kind of like the Silent Realm, but maybe it's actually the same thing, but different cultures use different names.
Do you know what this is starting to remind me of though? The Studio Demands It, where we did where we like that's
the crossover one?
Yeah, the crossover with TC, where we just like okay, so they're all legends.
Yep.
They're all real, but they're somewhat multiverse, but like somehow the legends leak through.
I will confess, I think that's why I leaned into that idea during that episode. Is that really there is probably pinpoints in every single Zelda game that are factual to some degree, but really probably they're legends. And there's one other clue to this interpretation. If you go to the official Nintendo website, they show like the timeline of all the games and
the
all
official Nintendo
official
timeline.
Nintendo. This is the graphic on their website.
Yeah.
They show the timeline and all the craziness that Hyrule Historia put together. Then there is a solid horizontal line, not connected to anything, and below that is Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Horizontal. All the lines are vertical, connecting all the other games, and then it's like hard stop. Guess what? New.
Okay. So then again, why do you think that this is the Twilight Princess Ganondorf?
I think others think this too.
Like, do you see like his sleeve?
I'm personally recognizing like his jewelry is exactly the same.
Okay, and he hasn't worn jewelry like that in any other iteration.
Right? Yeah, his headpiece. He always has like a gem up on his forehead.
Yeah.
That he likes to wear or whatever. But the specific neck piece and like the things around his hands and stuff. Obviously, the graphic style is just a touch different. But like the Twilight Princess style was a slightly more realistic look.
Yeah.
But for me, it looks like it's the same. He seems to be about the same height. Seems like he's wearing the same jewelry. And maybe I would imagine the clothes have like eroded away or whatever.
Okay. But this could also be the original Ganondorf that they just created for
absolutely
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, this whole Twilight Princess thing could be a total nothing. Well, I mean, our listeners know right now because of the weird timing of this episode coming out. But
okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up because that was one that that was a personal one because I just didn't understand the relationship of the villains throughout the game.
So Skyward Sword basically said, guess what, Zelda, guess what, Ganon, actually there's Hylia and Demise.
Yeah. And Link's just in the middle trying to figure this whole thing out. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep.
Next.
Oh, this is awesome.
Zelda, the games span like thousands of years, right? Maybe even longer.
Breath of the Wild's lore is 10,000 years deep.
So do you ever see any signs of evolution? As in, do you ever think that the Loft Wings are descendants of the Rito?
Ooh, I love that.
Or maybe did I say that?
Or reverse, perhaps.
Yeah, or like...
It is official Zelda canon that... Don't roll your eyes too hard when I say this. That the Zora, the fish people...
Oh, and then I also have like, were Zora once Hylians? Hyruleans.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hylians. Because they're
Hylians.
so like humanoid.
They have gotten more and more humanoid.
Well, I mean, the leader's a giant jellyfish. Remember, he just like waddles back and forth for a while.
Yeah. I think that's a game design, the Zora thing. But okay, wait, what was the first question?
Do you the Loft Wings?
Yeah.
Do you think the Rito are descendants of the Loft Wings?
I personally love that concept. I love it so much. I think that would be like a really cool way to go with it. But the Zelda, again, because of this wacky retcon timeline. We have 22 years of gaming.
From now on, it's just going to be like, why not? Because timeline.
Well, the truth is, and this is okay. I'm okay with this in the fandom. I don't want to shoot down lore in Zelda. I think it's awesome. And I honestly think that, again, speaking to how game making has matured in 30 years, I think that that Nintendo's very much thinking about lore at this point. I think the connections that seem to be in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are like, it's like Star Wars level lore.
Yeah, I think they're going to blow some people's minds because I think from what I've seen and heard, like it is now a forefront because I don't think they're trying to change the gameplay. I think it feels like Breath of the Wild is going to be kind of the same mechanical game. Yeah. So now it's going to be plot that's going to move this forward.
And in many ways, the four mainstream Zeldas that succeeded Ocarina were basically the Ocarina gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think Nintendo cares a lot about it now. And I think if you're a Zelda fan in this day and age, caring about that lore and caring about the timelines and all those things is really cool and important and a ton of fun. And I think Nintendo cares a lot more about it too. I think they started caring when Skyward Sword came out 10 years ago. But if we're looking at Ocarina or we're looking at, the adventure of Link or something, we have to be really careful because Nintendo, I feel, wasn't thinking about that stuff when they were making those games and so 25 years ago.
Yeah, we're making the connections ourselves. But like,
so there's a lot of retcons. So the question of evolution, like the Loft Wings turning into the Rito, it's forced Nintendo to do some wacky retcon evolution decisions. Some of those are that the Kokiri, the green-haired people in Ocarina of Time, they evolve into the Koroks.
Shut up. Those little wood things that give you the seeds?
That's what the Zelda Encyclopedia, that's canon. We got to figure that one out. And then also there's the Kui-Kui relationship in Skyward Sword. So now there's a version where it could be that the Kui-Kui...
Okay. Yeah. Remind me about the Kui-Kui.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I know. The Kui-Kui look a lot like Koroks, but they're kind of like maybe a little more planty, but they're kind of the same kind of like star-looking kind of like thing.
How was that? There it is. Okay, now I'm back on. I'm back on.
There's a version where the Kui-Kui could have grown into the Koroks or the Kokiri, and then the Kokiri evolved into the Koroks. It is canon legend. That's funny. You can't say it that way. Oh, do you know what I just realized too? Like even in Star Wars, there is canon and legends.
Sure.
That's how they refer to it.
Yeah, but
the
then
stuff
there's
that's
also
been taken out of the canon.
J.J. Abrams coming through and saying yes and no about everything.
Yeah, I
think we just need a J.J. Abrams for Zelda.
I don't know if that's true.
So what do you think? What do you think after this new game? And I want to get back to what you're saying. I'm so sorry.
Sure, no, it's fine.
But I want to the game comes out, which it will be out.
Tears is out right now as this
comes
out. But
what if this ends and just bookends this entire timeline?
Oh, that'd be fun.
And he's like, boom.
It'd be a masterful retcon.
Yeah, and it'll just be and then something happens with the universe, da-da-da-da, and it's next game, Zelda, Chapter 1.
I mean, perhaps. I think they were kind of doing that with Breath of the Wild, but I hear you. And I also think, I want to be clear about this, using the word retcon is not necessarily a negative thing.
Oh, no.
It just means that you're kind of maybe figuring some things out after other things exist.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And sometimes some retcons have led to some amazing content.
They've
like
been awesome.
Things sometimes just need
I think
tweaks.
one could argue that all of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows now are pre-retconning the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, without a doubt.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the Clone Wars retconned the transition from the prequel trilogy. Like it's okay to do this. This is storytelling. It's all right. So the fact that Nintendo 10 years ago said, shoot, we're going to start caring about this because our fans care about it.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't say shoot. I'm obviously just like joking around. It's not like they're like, oh, darn it, we got to do this. You know, they do care right now. And also, if you think about it, the people that are making Zelda games now, I mean, the directors are still the directors that have been working for the past 20 years, but a lot of the team are people who grew up playing Zelda games.
Yeah.
So they have that emotional connection and they want that storytelling to be deeper and truer. So it is a complicated answer to say like, well, because timeline, because the truth is yes, but like, okay, yeah, let's maybe still have some fun and try to figure it out.
Yeah. Wow.
So the evolution.
I did not think we were going to get to this whole thing because of that question.
Well, because where I was going to is that we know in quotes where the Rito came from.
Oh, we do? Where did the Rito come from?
The Zora evolved into them.
Oh, man.
When the planet flooded. So the fish people turned into bird people when all the water was around.
So some of them did because there's still like...
And now in Breath of the Wild, they're coexisting.
Yeah.
So like who evolved, who didn't?
Where were the Ritos first?
They were introduced in Wind Waker.
Wind Waker. Okay.
In place of the Zora.
Now, are there Zora in Wind Waker?
There isn't.
Did we ever check?
Yeah, we know this.
It's just
There's
like,
only one Goron actually.
Oh.
But the reason is so then you know Nintendo released like or the Hyrule historian, one of them says like, yeah, the Zora turned into the Rito, and everybody's thinking that's ridiculous because the Zora would have been like the world is at its best when it's flooded for the Zora.
Yeah.
And so then there was like a little pivot where Nintendo said, well, it wasn't like an evolution. The three goddesses zopped them into the Rito so that they couldn't go underwater and find original Hyrule.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
So why do they care?
Who's they?
Why do the three goddesses care that this...
They were trying to keep original Hyrule hidden under the ocean. In Wind Waker, hidden from Ganondorf. So they didn't want anybody to know where it was anymore. In fact,
why didn't they just get rid of it? If they have the power to... I mean,
I think in the canon of Wind Waker, I think the idea is that one day they would recede the flood again when they took care of the Ganondorf problem.
Got it.
It's kind of like lock the door. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And now we have Rito and Zora together, so I don't know.
I like the fact that they're descended from Loftwings.
I like that too. I think that's cool.
I think that's awesome. So we're canon?
Loftwing.
Lock it in.
The only way Loftwings continue to exist again though, like there aren't Loftwings in Breath of the Wild, but again, Skyward Sword is actually the second newest Zelda game right now.
Sure.
The Loftwings only really live on in the Zelda symbol. They're there's technically a little like bird
but
thing.
Like
in the
you
symbol.
find it the old shield that's been in the dungeon for hundreds and thousands of years. Yep. Like it has the Loftwing symbol on it.
Yep.
So like, unless there was just a really cool Rito that someone's like, I'm gonna put you on this shield for forever.
I think the Loftwings. I think at the end of Skyward Sword, the Loftwings you might be able to. One might deduce that they just stay up in the sky.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't see Loftwings in Tears of the Kingdom, do you?
I haven't seen any yet in any trailers or anything.
Okay, cool.
All right, let's keep going.
All right. Oh, and so this may be a stupid one, and where you go like, yes, idiot, play the game. Hey, do you ever see the old guy in the dungeon that says like, it's dangerous to go alone? Take this. Do you ever see him again?
I can politely say yes, idiot.
Okay.
You
politely yes, idiot.
Yeah. What I mean by that is that the old man, the archetype of the old man, the literal old man that's in the first Zelda game, is not like repeated, but that mechanic and that character type is often repeated. Okay. Remember way back when we did our commercial episode and you said, who's the guy with the mustache all the time in these commercials? There's always like some like fatherly character showing up that looks a little bit like Mario.
Yeah.
It is very common, just like it's common for Link to be waking up in the morning or in the beginning of the game. It's also very common, but not always true, but it's very common for Link to interface with some kind of old man almost immediately in a Zelda game.
The Wild, like it's the king, right?
Yep. Yeah. So the fact that I think so, the old man, he's even referred to as old man, like in the title card. I think it says like old man in Breath of the Wild. They are directly referencing that old man from the first Legend of Zelda game.
Okay. You
bump into him in a pseudo cave.
Yeah.
Just like the original. Like they're clearly referencing this. Super cool. It's a twist that he's the king. You're supposed to really think that he's just some old man.
So it is a common trope for you to run into an old man who gives you a very important artifact, and then he never comes back.
Yeah, kind of gives you the start, and then doesn't really Yeah, he
Well,
sets you on your way.
Doesn't it feel like it's a waste of like you could really have a cool reveal later on, or like he could maybe that's the dude who's the courage person, you know?
Oh,
Like,
I love that.
You know, like
I love
because he's
that.
always right there to like put you on the first step, give you the courage to keep going.
Dan, I think you're onto something there. That's cool. That's what old man is. Now, also in the original Legend of Zelda, there's technically many old men that you then continue to find. They're like in secret chambers, and they are technically different old men. Okay. And there's even old women in that game too. But anyway.
I just remember, you know, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. I'm like, why do I not know who that guy is? Like,
does Old Man in Breath of the Wild say it's dangerous to go alone?
No. In like the first Zelda, right?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Dangerous to go alone.
If he did, I would have noticed.
Yeah,
because that's like one of the few Zelda things that I do know. Like, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Yeah. And then there's it's a secret to everybody, which is what we use as our little subtitle for our show, and that's from the very first Zelda game, where a moblin or a bokoblin or bokoblin or whatever, like you go in to a store and it's a monster running the store, and he gives Link money.
Yeah,
and he says it's a secret to everybody. So there's like a good moblin or goblin or what out there, and so then they continue to use that line. But anyway,
quick ones, ready?
Mm-hmm.
When will we ever get the Switch remakes of the CDI games?
Definitely never.
Definitely never.
Definitely never, because Nintendo wants to bury them, and they don't own the rights. Like the companies, two or three different companies.
So I'm going to get a cease and desist letter from just bringing it up.
No, I actually thought you were going to say, when are we getting the HD remake of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker? And I think that's inevitable. I think that's in the next 5 years.
Oh, without a doubt. They're just waiting for sales to dip one fraction of 1 point.
It'll be between Tears of the Kingdom and the next Zelda game.
But I think and I don't know how software or programming works, but I feel like there has to be you can just run it real quick and it's just sitting there. Like, well save it for when we need some money.
We have quantifiable evidence that it's very easy to take Wii U games and put them on the Switch.
Yeah.
Because almost all the Wii U games have done that.
Exactly.
Have been re-released on the Switch. And the HD remakes are technically Wii U games. So anyway.
Okay. Is there any lore to who makes all the maps and compasses?
Ooh, that's super cool.
Because they're all made. Is there like a name on the bottom of it? Is there like a very famous explorer why there's just compasses and maps everywhere? I
love that. I don't think there is. The closest thing I can think of is that there is a little bit of light map making in like Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass, the ocean based ones where you're kind of doing cartography.
Okay.
But it's not in the dungeons. Those maps that are in the dungeons, that would be cool to have.
I just think it'd be a fun, and maybe even a side quest, just like in one of the games, to just hear about a guy who just all he wanted to do was map stuff.
Yeah.
And then you can even retcon that every single game you remake in the far corner, it's just his name signed off on the bottom. You're like, oh my God, he went through and he made all of these maps.
That would be cool. That would be super cool. There's probably an NPC or two out there that loves map making.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's something in Breath of the Wild that talks about that.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
How many animals has Link been?
Ooh, I think I can maybe figure this one out.
I don't have the answer, so this is us figuring it out. I'm
going to go through release order. Nothing in the first one, nothing in the second. He turns into a bunny in the third one. I received this question in a quiz once. I think it was the Switch Clicks quiz. I think they asked me this one. I got it right. It was like 6 or something, or 4.
He's been 6 different animals?
Well, let's just figure it out. Maybe it was only 4. I can't remember. But so it was a bunny. And it also gets tricky if you count him turning into Zoras and Gorons in Majora's Mask. Let's count it as full animal, not okay, fine. Not just other beings.
Yeah.
Bunny, certainly a wolf in Twilight Princess.
And that's where I'm out. That's my answer is 2.
Like full on turning into animals? I think he's done it 4 times. What else is there? He doesn't turn into an animal in Minish Cap. He doesn't turn into an animal in Skyward. He has animal friends in the Oracle games, but he doesn't turn into them.
Okay. So why does he turn into a bunny? Not to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Honestly, okay, for the sake of this conversation, so I don't sit here and do this for another 10 minutes, let's say it's only 2, because that's all we can think of right now. I think there's more. I think it is 4.
Well, and if you want to count the masks he puts on as becoming that, but I don't count it.
And is a Goron an animal? What are we counting as an animal? But I agree. That's more like a magical. He's taking on a race or a species or who knows what. So Link turns into a bunny.
Doesn't he turn into a DQ nut thing?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So it's is that an animal?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's
a plant. It's a sentient plant.
Yeah.
All the Deku are. which is a whole thing because then you have good Deku and bad Deku.
There's bad Deku?
Oh, absolutely. You know, even the things that look like Little Shop of Horrors, like those are Deku Babas. And so the way Deku...
There's just so much I don't know. David, there's just so much I don't know.
Well, I've been learning all this too, and there's still plenty to learn. But Link turns into a bunny in A Link to the Past because at a certain point in the game, he unlocks a portal to the Dark World. Okay. And just consider it as like the inverse world.
Wait. He goes to the Dark World and becomes a bunny.
Yes.
Like,
because what the Dark World does...
Out of all the dark things in the world, his darkness is a bunny.
Well... it's not exactly that things are dark in the Dark World. It's called the Dark World, but what it really is, it was kind of named that after the fact because what this new dimension does is that it transforms everyone into what is their pure heart.
Oh.
And unfortunately, we've learned that there's a lot of darkness in the hearts of the people in Hyrule in A Link to the Past, so they turn into monsters, and the monsters turn into worse monsters.
Oh, wow. What would you turn into, David?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. That's difficult.
Yeah.
As an animal?
Yeah.
Well, it would be fun.
What's your heart animal?
I don't know if I really know. I know growing up, my favorite animal was always the zebra. But
yeah, but it's not your favorite animal. It's like, because I know what I am.
Okay, what are you?
I would turn into a raccoon.
A raccoon?
Yeah. I would just hang out, eat trash, just like lay on things, come out at night, take a nap.
Something I would like to be something that kind of moves through the woods quickly. I guess I can't do wolf.
Bobcat.
Yeah, maybe a cat thing would be cool.
I can see a bobcat. I really do.
Yeah, that'd be kind of neat.
Or like a lynx.
If you had to. Yeah, something in that spectrum would be kind of neat.
Definitely a tail. Like just something without a doubt that has a tail.
Now it's getting weird.
Okay. There we go. Dark World. What animal? Compass. Okay. So, unlike this, a slight jab at Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Okay. So, no, we'll do that one second. If I have a nephew, which I do.
Yes.
Okay. A couple of them, and they've never played any of the Zelda games.
Okay.
At all. Like starting from 1 to now. Where do you advise them to start?
Yeah.
Now, do you tell them like, hey, go start at 1 and then like play as the game progresses? Or is there a different starting point, like start chronologically, which would be
kind of like how people talk like, what order do you watch Star Wars movies? That kind of stuff.
So what is your...
Yeah. Well, I might have an actual literal answer. My two nieces and my nephew, I started all of them on Breath of the Wild.
Starting with Breath.
Yes, and mostly it's because I feel that some of those older Zelda games, I was years ago, back when we were before I started another Zelda podcast, I was seeing someone in Milwaukee.
Okay. And
she was like, hey, I'd like to play Zelda games.
Okay.
And it was just as we were getting the Nintendo, the little mini Nintendo system, was coming out, the one with all the old Nintendo games on it. And you just grabbed your Switch. What are you doing?
That's one of my next questions.
Oh my gosh.
But
okay.
only if it didn't charge.
Well, maybe you can grab one of these cords. I mean, the computer's doing okay now. You might be able to pull this one and plug it in for a little bit.
Okay, keep on.
Yeah. Technical difficulties. We're charging up a Switch because it's part of the question. That's interesting. So anyways, I was seeing someone, this is a long, long time ago, and she said, oh, I want to start playing Zelda. And kind of like just on her own was like, I'm going to play the first one. And and the first one's hard to play. You know what I mean? Just mechanics. That's where games were. She actually pushed through and enjoyed it, but did not want to play. And when she was done with that one, she was like, I've got enough Zelda in my system. I'm done. Yeah. I actually think that I think it's okay to play Zelda games almost in reverse almost. It's okay to play the newest one first.
Okay.
Because I think, like, is my niece or nephew my 6-year-old nephew and my 10-year-old niece, are they really going to want to start with Ocarina of Time, for example?
Okay.
They may not. Maybe they care about the graphics, maybe they don't. But I know for some people, it's hard to go back to Ocarina. I tell you what, if there's ever an Ocarina HD remake,
okay,
I think I would start people there.
Okay.
It's kind of the turning point. It's kind of a new hope of the Zelda timeline.
But why? I mean, I guess because I don't feel like it's really the starting point of plot.
I kind of feel it is. Well, maybe it's because of that timeline split, because it seeds all those other things.
But then, in order to explain everything and kind of go back and have that conversation with like if the goal is at the end for them to understand and kind of like be able to map out the entire timeline themselves. Like they are going to play all the games, like take difficulty and all of that off the side. Like I just think Ocarina is like a kind of a messy middle. Like it's important.
Interesting.
It's important because it shoots off like 2 different timelines, but like what's number 2? Like
what do you play next?
Where do you go
well,
next?
I think you kind of then you decide like, do you want to go along the Wind Waker path or the Twilight Princess path or whatever? But honestly, no. When it's a young kid who's just getting introduced to it, I think you do the current Zelda because that's how a lot of people get introduced to Zelda. For me, it was Link's Awakening, but it kind of was Ocarina of Time. Okay. For some people, we have one. Andy, his first Zelda was Spirit Tracks on DS. So
really?
that's his
Spirit
favorite
Tracks.
Zelda. Yeah, he was like he just got it as a one-off or something like that, and it changed his world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of your first Zelda is always the best one. So to that point, here's the real question. With Tears of the Kingdom, I think I would still have someone start with Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't start Tears of the Kingdom. That would be.
It's like
ridiculous.
You don't play Majora's Mask before playing.
No.
Ocarina.
Like, there's definitely one before the other, but it's like what is the starting point then?
Then I'll just do this. This is way too complicated, but I have started all 3 of my nieces and nephews with Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And they've been playing Breath of the Wild for the past 4 years of their life. They slowly get better and better at it. They just live in that world and they move all over the place. And I think there's going to be a time.
You can spend so much time in there.
Yeah, and once they get more into like a teenager space, when you start to appreciate history a little bit more, or maybe the history of game design, or you can appreciate that an older game can still be fun. Some people never find that, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I have that issue. Like whenever you asked me to go back, I remember we were at your place one time, and you were like, "Oh, just play Link's Awakening."
I remember you going,
and I remember going like, "This is the hard, like not hard. It's just like, not hard as in difficult, but like okay. For instance, I don't know if I told you this, but Tiff and I just recently downloaded like Resident Evil 4. She wants us to get into Resident Evil. She loves them.
The remake or the original?
Not the remake.
Original, yeah.
Like Resident Evil, because everyone's like, oh, Resident Evil 4 was so good. It's the best Resident Evil.
When it came out, it was.
And so I was like, okay, cool. So we downloaded it, and like I could not play it. Yeah. Like the controls are so tanky that like you have to stop what you're doing, aim your gun, and then shoot. And like I'm just spoiled. I'm used to flowy combat. I'm used to being able to strafe and shoot and run to take all of that away and make me go back to like move, stop, aim, shoot. Like it just feels
so. Like when I go back and I play Star Tropics on the Nintendo or something like that, or any of these, or any of the Zelda games, even you have to. There's a time. One of my hardest things to do is to play Link's Awakening. Yeah, not Link's Awakening, A Link to the Past. It's a lot of people's favorite Zelda game. It was the third one. It was the first one on Super Nintendo. The only one on Super Nintendo. And
that's where he has purple hair.
That's where he has the purple hair. Got it. And to this day, whenever I go back into that game, I don't have a particularly enjoyable experience because something about the minutia of those controls just don't click with me. But I try to see past that. I was able to see past it with the original Legend of Zelda and also the Adventure of Link. So like there were days years ago where I'd go into the original Legend of Zelda and I play it for 2 seconds and I'd be like, I'm out. I can't do this. But you know, you just have patience. You're doing it for the sake of like, would I do that with a different franchise if I wasn't making this podcast? I'm not sure.
Okay. So I have one more question, and then I'm hoping this switch boots up because that's going to be the last question of the time. But I'm not sure that that's
the little battery's going to symbol.
Yeah. So how come Ganon doesn't have a cool sword? Or Ganondorf?
Yeah, you're right. Ganondorf. Well, he has a sword in Twilight Princess, and you literally sword fight him at the end. Yeah. But I don't know if it's really necessarily named or anything. Maybe it's the Dark Bane of whatever. Who knows? But you're right, because Ganon occasionally will have like mega sword knifey things.
Yeah. I actually there's a trick in this question because like I just wanted to say that I read that the sword that Ganondorf uses is the same sword that they use to execute him. Did you know that? Like
maybe in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, in Twilight Princess, yeah. But apparently, like, there's a cut scene where they
they stab him.
They run him through. Like he then uses that sword.
Yes,
and I was like, that okay, like
because they stab him and he falls into the Twilight realm.
Yeah,
and basically tricks Zant into getting him out. Is what happens.
I really wanted to bring that up because I thought that was a really cool fact that I didn't know, and I just wanted to show that.
I like that a lot. I'm not sure not the etymology of that sword, but I'm not sure what the history of that sword is. He most of the time. Oh, but it is Ganon again. I was about to say most of the time he has like in the early days he'd have like a trident or something that he would throw at you, but that was Ganon, not Ganondorf.
Okay, so here we go. Now you've officially answered all my text-based questions, which is fantastic. But there is one more question in the wheelhouse that I I had to save for last because it's probably the most important.
I see you grabbing your Switch here.
Yeah. I am playing Link's Awakening.
What?
And yeah, it's fun.
Wait, but we just talked about how you didn't like Link's Awakening.
I know, but I'm playing.
Oh, you're playing the remake.
Yeah. Oh, no. So it's the new one.
Cool.
Because like,
oh, Dan, I'm so happy about this.
I think we talked like I don't like the originals. I shouldn't say I don't like them. It's hard for me to play just because I get visually bored.
Okay.
With this, like looking at the same like 4 colors.
Dan, you have that right.
Yeah, and I like, and some people love it. Some people like it was part of their childhood. Some people like it's heart blood for them, and I get it. It's not for me. So it's me. It's like the same reason why I'm never gonna play like one of the original Super Mario Brothers.
And that Link's Awakening remake. I mean, it looks pretty good.
It's pretty shiny.
Yeah,
it's very shiny.
At least it's something to look at, right?
Yeah. So I need your help because I'm stuck, and I have no idea what to do next.
Okay,
and I know you beat it.
Show me.
So
this actually there are like Link's Awakening has like 2 or 3. I'm taking the
dude, you
controller.
Take it. Yep.
Link's Awakening was my first game, and I did beat it organically as a kid.
Okay.
But there's 2 or 3 times. I remember Celeste spoke about this too. There's 2 or 3 times in the game where it's almost a hard stop because the puzzle you need to solve is kind of ridiculous.
I have no idea what to do next. Like, and I'm just gonna scoot over.
All right, so this is the pause screen, and I see that you've completed the first dungeon because I see the
did it
cello
myself.
thing.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you're playing this. Oops, I pushed the wrong button.
You just start software.
I accidentally pushed home. Okay, there we go.
And so there I am. So
you're trying to get to the second dungeon.
These 2 little annoying kids have told me about like their dog missing.
Maybe you need to find Bow Wow right now?
Yeah, and I have no idea what to do.
All right, okay.
And I don't want to do it. I need you to do it because if I touch this thing, I'm gonna throw against the wall anymore.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you're in the right. So this is the main town.
Yep.
And Bow Wow, I think if you speak to
like the 2 little whiny kids.
If you speak to her, remember the chain chomp that was hanging out around this thing here?
Bow Wow,
that's Bow Wow. Okay, so you know that because I think she calls him Bow Wow, right?
And she's just complaining about something.
Yeah, this one's a little tricky. I remember this. You have to go fight some guys up in here. And
Then let's go because I fought.
We're doing this on. So I'm going up the hill. I'm going to go into the
annoying maze forest thing that takes me 45 minutes to get through because it's dumb.
The raccoon part, or just
no? Remember, like you had to like find the drugs to give to the raccoon for a little bit.
That's true. All right, so I'm walking through the mysterious woods right now. Maybe I'll pull this a little. Well, we're fine. Oh, this is hysterical. You know what? I think you go north. It's one of those.
I'm telling you, I've gone everywhere. Oh, watch out! I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, I know. I'm just running through right now.
Wait.
Jump is to X.
I can do that.
Falling in a pit. I just fell in a pit because I pushed the wrong button. So I'm going to the northeastern area. This is kind of where the mysterious woods ends.
The sound that the moblins make, like, make me know, like when you hear them, like, it makes me feel bad.
So you've been to this swamp up here and stuff? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think you...
Watch out, that fish is very annoying.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think you navigate through all this.
I'm mad at how quickly you're doing all this.
Oh, right. So Bow Wow will eat these flowers.
Okay, well...
And now I am trying to remember where Bow Wow is. I think some moblins have him.
Where?
I know. I know where it is, like on the map. It's right over here. We get to it from the little part where you get the star heart. Okay. I might edit this down for the show a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
Because I feel like I've ran, walked, jumped.
My thumb is sliding. It's those potato chips we were snacking on.
Blame it on the chips.
I mean, quite frankly, even if we restart, that would be better. But I'll just go down there.
I'm sure there's a heart here and there.
There's always hearts.
But I've checked all up here, and there's nothing.
I think I know where you have to go. But look, even I went the wrong way just now this first time. Okay, we want to get out of the mysterious forest. It's to the east of Kakariko Village. It's to the east of the town you start in. All right, so I'm going south back through the mysterious forest right now.
So we're leaving the mysterious forest.
Yeah, we don't need to be here. I know, I'm just taking hits. I'm just running.
Nope, yeah.
This is not... I'm playing kind of fast right now. I'm just trying to get to the spot. So I think I recall. Okay, so now we're going back into Mabe Village.
Okay.
And I'm walking past Bow Wow's place. The mom or the owner is crying. We've got some foxes. We're going past.
I talked to her. She taught me about a song.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah.
Song of the Windfish. So we exit. So we're at Link's house now in Mabe Village, and we exit this way.
Yeah, but I don't have any rocks.
Oh, you can't lift that rock.
Yeah.
Okay, what the heck's going on?
See?
Oh, we do want to go through the mysterious forest. We need to go up through the upper right. Oh my gosh. Okay. I can't believe I'm running around like a maniac. I know exactly where you need to go. Back into the mysterious woods.
Yeah, I feel like I've gone all over the mysterious woods.
Yeah, I believe that thought, or I believe that feeling. I feel that way sometimes too with some of these areas. There's one area when you get to the southwest or the southeast part of the map, where there's like one little snaky little path to get to a whole area, and I always accidentally just go like, let me just get to that area. All right, we're back in Mysterious Forest. I need to get to the northeast corner of it. I'm going to show you the map right now. We're trying to get right there.
Okay, I'm telling
to
you.
go north right here, I believe.
Okay, I'm telling you, I've tried it.
All right. I'm genuinely happy you're playing this game. You just did you just like decide to like pick it up and one day, or what was your?
So we were on vacation with my nieces and nephews, and they really fell in love with Ultimate Horse Chicken.
Oh, great!
And so I gave them mine because I had Ultimate Horse Chicken downloaded. Yep. So I was playing their Switch, and one of the games they got was this one. I was like, you know what? I had been talking to David nonstop about telling him I was going to play this game. Like, I'll start, and then they let me like borrow it because like, oh, we haven't played that in a long time.
All right, so here we are. I think we want to go north from here.
I feel like
Yep, Tall Heights, and then right through this little bit, the bad guy's right here. He's in here.
Oh, see, then I must have missed this whole thing.
Maybe this little, because we went through this little corner of the woods, and you have to fight these people. Would you like to fight them?
Oh, yeah, just set it. No, we'll set it down, because it's going to be a boss battle, and I don't like people to see how many times
it's like a mini little boss battle, so I'm going to save it.
Yep.
You'll get Bow Wow from these guys. They've captured him. I don't know if you have to bring him back to the owner, but what you really want to do is bring him over to that little lake with the white flowers, because he'll chomp and eat those white flowers, and that's how you. And the second dungeon's in that swamp lake thing.
Okay. I'm telling you, like, I've gone all over this map. I've turned it up like 3 separate times.
Yeah.
And just been like, I'm gonna find it.
I'm having a moment like that in A Link Between Worlds right now, where I'm trying to get into this one dungeon, and I'm going into the dark world or whatever it's called, underworld in that game. I can't remember what it's called, and I keep like missing the path, the teeny tiny little path. There are a couple times here where it was so we were at that point where there was the circle, it was the pit of circle, the circle of pits, and I jumped into it, and then we jumped north, and that brought us into Tall Heights, and maybe you just didn't jump north.
Well, we'll see, because I still feel like the game's out to get me.
Yeah, well, come back to me when you're like on the 5th or 6th dungeon and you have to roll dice or play chess.
That sounds awesome.
Oh, okay.
It sounds awesome.
All right, I hope you like it.
Okay.
Cool. Well, Dan, this was great. Thank you so much for asking me these questions.
Not a problem.
I've learned some things about myself tonight and what my fandom is with Zelda.
And then you're a bobcat.
And then I'm a bobcat.
You're a bobcat, David. We found that out today.
I'll take it.
With a tail.
People already know you.
Lynx? Do bobcats have tails?
They might have I think all cats have tails, and very rarely do you see. I think they all naturally have tails. You don't get the little snipped tails. That's like a thing that happened with dogs with breeding, I think.
Okay.
But Dan, people already know you, but if this is their first episode, where can they find you?
Hello, everyone. My name's Dan. So I am part of the 6'5 family. I have me and Matt, who hopefully you've maybe heard an episode. Matt's going to be on this before or after?
He was he was
the opener.
He's the season opener. You guys are with us.
He was the opener. So me and Matt have our own show, which we probably talked about a great length on that one too. It's called Fan Fiction. We would love for you guys to jump over and to give us a listen. We are on season 2 right now. Season 1 is video games. Season 2 is movie franchises.
Season 3 TBD.
Season 3 is... We've got thoughts.
Got some thoughts?
We got some thoughts.
Maybe if some listeners have some ideas too,
we got some thoughts. But
it's a genuinely hilarious show. You guys crack me up.
I've known Matt for years, so if you just want to hear two nerds bicker back and forth for about an hour about anything, we're the two that you should really stumble upon.
I know that you're speaking with a sense of humor right now, but like I wouldn't even call it bickering. The two of you you yes and each other so much. You just layer on top of each other. The show just moves, man.
Well, we've been doing this for like 30 years now, so we've just decided to finally record it. So if you're into it, we would love to have you over. But that's where we are. Fan Fiction, FAN FIX-TION. You can find us on all the podcast places that you can find David.
Super cool. Even you can even find a link to it at the bottom of the Another Zelda podcast website.
Pew pew.
I'm
Got
David.
him.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Raptor Paints. The show is Another Zelda Pod on Twitter and Another Zelda Podcast on Instagram. You can go to our website, Another Zelda Podcast, where we have a bunch of blog articles and links to our Patreon account, where we have even more content. And let's see, what else? What are the other basics? Oh, yeah, we're on all the podcast providers, Google Podcasts, Spotify.
I already said that, David.
Yeah, for fan fiction. I had to do it for AZP.
God.
For FFX, not AZP.
Fine.
And all those things. But really, you can just go to our website, Another Zelda Podcast. Or actually, when I recorded an episode with Andy, he was like, or just Google it, because it's like a lot is going to pop up. Just do that. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. This was a great episode. This is cool.
Yeah, I always enjoy these.
I love this because, like I said, I'm not joking. Like when you have to answer questions or figure things out as a person who is a fan of something, sometimes we just learn a little bit about ourselves, don't we?
And I love to see David like process things. You know, like David always comes so prepared. Like he has notes about what he wants to do, and just to see him go, oh, good question. Oh, I'm thinking right now. He says it out loud. He's like, oh, my brain's just moving right now, and we need to go do this. And it's just like, yeah, let's go. It's exciting.
Awesome. All right, Dan. Well, we'll see you next time. I'm not sure what it'll be, but this was great. Thank you very much.
Adios.